Hi everyone, I'm Colin and you're watching my Flosstube channel, Stitch Apocalypse. This is my 6th video, which I will probably be titling Sludge on Sludge. This is a channel about cross stitch. I'm being influenced by current events and art and film, like media, and I guess books I'm reading, and my own life and the lives of the people I care about, and just every aspect of everything that I'm experiencing. I like actively want it to influence my stitching, and really my goal is that, like, in turn, eventually my stitching and my work will influence outward, as opposed to just being kind of a whatever. All that to say is, like, I do cross stitch and I'm gonna talk about my life and the world I live in. Yeah, so this is my 6th video. I want to I want to start out, and I'm 5 minutes into filming. I would really like to say thank you to everyone who watches. Like, I don't want to say I just get so much positive attention, because I do get positive attention and I love it, but I also get some negative attention, and honestly I love that too. I cannot imagine, like, me living a life that isn't at least a little bit steeped in controversy. I have stopped getting the negative comments on my videos, which I'm a little bit sad about, because I will say they've moved a little bit to my Instagram DMs, which is a lot more private, and, like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't know. It's not that I don't feel comfortable sharing that kind of stuff. I'm reading it. I'm not going to be here like, I don't care. Like, I'm reading it, and that's fine. Whatever. I'm reading it, and obviously it is affecting the choices that I'm making, but the choices that I'm making are usually even stronger, like, against the thing the person's saying. I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, I do cross stitch. I love everyone who watches my videos, even the people who hate watch it. I am not an engagement whore, but y'all get my views up. The last couple videos, I'll show you some stitching in a minute. The last couple videos, I have said, like, oh, I have 5 whips and I usually don't stitch that much. I usually only stitch 3 or 4 things in a 3-week period. And I guess now I'm realizing that, like, that just isn't true. And I usually do stitch about 5 or 6 things in a 3-week period and get pretty good progress on it. And particularly now that it's summer and, like, the school semester is over, I have a lot more free time. And so I'm stitching more. And so today I have 1 new start and then 5 whips to show you. So that's that. Thank you for watching. I don't know. The first thing I want to show you is my new start, which is a piece that literally everyone has seen. You can kind of see how there's, like, a piece or, like, 2 pieces, you know, that are very, like, emblematic and iconic of a very specific time. And I think this one is very much emblematic and iconic of the cross-stitching world. This is Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. Sometimes people complain that I don't show the cover long enough, so I just always hold it up. A long time now. There it is. I'm stitching this on 40 count chinchilla linen by Zweigart with DMC 642, and I'm stitching it 1/2. It's on, I said 40 count. I'll show it to you and then I'll talk through it. I actually just filmed this whole ass video yesterday, and yesterday was Mother's Day, today is Monday, and, like, I just wasn't in it. I just wasn't feeling it. I just, like, I don't know. I, like, looked back at it to edit it, and it was whatever. Sorry, this is another one. I'm not even sure I'm in it. I'll get there. By the time I show the 3rd whip, I'll be, like, on a roll and it'll be fine. Here is what my work looks like. I had started this previously. I will say, when I posted my first video in January, which was a whip braid, I showed a different version of Fruits of Plenty that I was stitching on white linen with 2 colors of floss, which were Blanc and Ecru DMC floss. When I was stitching other things, I realized that my partner Isaac was always kind of reaching towards it, that he really wanted to like feel the texture of it. And that he was like very interested in sort of the texture, the way that the stitching felt. He certainly liked how it looked and like whatever, but and I thought there was something really interesting about that. And I kind of felt like nobody really talks about stitching as like a tactile thing. I think more recently I've seen a couple people talk about it. I guess I've seen Cam the Stitcher talk about it. I've seen the Curious Crafters talk about it. But I think, so I had started this last summer and it was white on white. And I was stitching it, and I'll just show it to you. I told you once in a video that I got rid of it, but I have it. I cleaned my, we have a new setup today. I cleaned my like workspace, and yeah, so this is what it looked like. I mean, this is what it looks like, and it's very attractive, but I think using the Ecru here, like the Ecru stands out too much. It stands out too much, and I wasn't super happy with it. And then I posted the video, and then I posted my first video saying I wasn't happy with it, and I got like a ton of really positive attention about this, and a lot of people being like, it's so beautiful, it's so beautiful. And a lot of those people were also like, it's so like sort of gesturing towards religion and all that kind of stuff, and like that's not what I'm doing. Like, sorry y'all, but that is not what I am doing. And so I put it away, and I was like very unhappy with it, and I've just been kind of mulling over it for the last like 4 or 5 months now of like, what do I want to do? How, if I have this goal, right, of stitching being tactile and like the look of it not really matter. I mean, it matters, but like kind of hiding the view of the stitches. But then the problem was like, because white has such like cultural connotations, it actually ended up looking like a lot of things. And a lot of those things were like religious purity, chastity, blah, blah, blah. And then it was kind of like, okay, well, like I still want to do it. I still think there's something really interesting and like exciting about stitching this like incredibly iconic piece. Yeah, this like iconic piece that so many people have seen, and like what does it mean to actually just not be able to see it all that much but still be stitching it. And then I was kind of running through like color options, and it was like, well, I can't do like purple, I can't do blue, I can't do, you know, all these different colors have these sort of cultural connotations. And I realized this kind of like dirty, sludgy, grayish-y, like nothing, has a lot less of that. You kind of have to reach for it, right? And so that's kind of how I ended up here. I'm incredibly happy with the way this is going. Like, I am so happy with this. I am so happy I restarted this. I have never restarted anything. Usually if I'm sick of a piece, it goes away, and like it's dead to me, right? I almost, in every other instance, I just kind of like chuck it. But I did feel like there was something here, and I'm really glad that I restarted this. I think that it has turned out really cool, and I'm excited to keep working on it. I'm like, I barely started it. But yeah, so that is my newest start, Fruits of Plenty by Modern Folk Embroidery. Oh, another thing is I am stitching it on 40 count, whereas the last time I had stitched it, I was stitching it on 36 count with 2 threads, where I'm stitching on 40 count with 1. And I was worried that the 1 thread wouldn't have enough texture to get exactly what I wanted, but I was wrong. I mean, I was right because I did it, but I was wrong to have that worry because it was not like a legitimate worry. At the time of filming my last video, I was actually working on this. I had only worked on it like one day, and so I didn't show it to you. because I didn't have all that much to show you, I'm showing a clown. Like, so this is what it'll look like when it's done. This is Clown Dreams by Designworks. This is a vintage kit. For some reason, when I say vintage kit, I like enunciate in a way that I literally never do in any other time I say anything ever. This is a vintage kit. That's more like me, but it doesn't feel right. And so I'm using the Haida fabric that was included, as well as the called for floss, as well as like the flosses that were included. I started this as part of the Bring Out Your Kit Sal, which was started and hosted by the Thread Gremlins and Jen's Fiberweb. I'll show you how much progress I've made on it. I like default to covering my face because I don't know. I feel like it focuses on the piece if I cover my face. But that's how much work I've got done. Ooh. Recently, the past couple weeks I stitched from basically here down. So the balloon, you can tell I've like spilled dirt on it. Here. But like the balloon and then this part of the robe and then some of this down here. And then I did all the back stitching from basically here down. I'm really enjoying this. I just think this clown is so stupid. I just think this clown is like the dumbest thing in the whole world. And I'm obsessed with him. I just think like, ooh, why did I think that if I took my hand off the top of my piece that it would stay up? I just did it again. Okay, the board's going away. It'll come back probably. I'm really enjoying this. I just think it is so, it's like nothing stitching. It's like no brain, no mind, no thought. The holes are easy to see. The stitches are like, if they're uneven, it's fine because it's just like a clown. And so like I stitch on this kind of a lot because it like breaks up some of the more, the pieces I feel like I have to be careful on. Or that I like am thinking about while I'm stitching. This one, like, I don't really think all that much about it. Other than, like, my thoughts are like, he's cute. It's funny. He's a hobo. That kind of stuff. He does have a 5 o'clock shadow, which I have not stitched in yet, but anyway. That's where I am on Clown Dreams by Designworks. I feel like I, like, lost my Flosstube skills. And then, yeah, so the way that I stitch is if you watch my Flosstubes, I just say the same thing in every video. It's just an hour of me repeating the exact same phrases and sayings over and over and over again, and then showing like 100 stitches. That's not true. I stitch a lot, and my stitching is generally kind of reactionary in the sense that I will stitch on something for a period of time until I fulfill whatever goal I've decided like in the moment when I pull it out. And then once it's put away, I just pick any other piece that I feel like stitching, which usually ends up being a piece that is the opposite in some way of the last piece. And so if that Clown Dreams is one that like I don't really think all that much about other than I think it's cute, this one I would say is probably like emblematic of, not probably, like that it is emblematic of the things I'm thinking about and the things I'm concerned about and also the things I'm excited about in the world in this year. So I started this in, I'm pretty sure, January, and I have been stitching on it pretty consistently. I have no idea when I started it. Let's see when I started it. I'm pretty sure I started in January. Yeah, I started at the end of January. This is Franzi 1870 by Reflet Soie. This is, Reflet Soie is obviously a French cross stitch. I don't even know if I guess designer, they do some designs, but Look, I hesitate calling the people who do the reproductions of samplers designers. Like, I just said it, so obviously I don't hesitate that much about it, but I don't know if that word is what I mean when I say that. I don't know if that's how I would describe what they're doing. But yeah, that's Franzi. She's a French designer, but this is a German reproduction from 1870. It's sort of a Berlin Woolwork sampler. I'm stitching it on 32 count flax, my favorite Swagger fabric that I use all the time. I'm stitching on 32 count flax with the DMCs. I am not paying like $600 on silks for one piece because this has like 60, I think it has like 60, it might have 70 flosses. And this is where I am. Oh, I'll move those out. Ooh. I'm really happy with this. So recently I just did these 3 motifs up here at the top. Just little bits of border. Yeah, so it's called for with silk, and they call for 1/1. But I really want it to be huge. I think there's something really fun about this like very bold and bright pattern. Stitched hugely. That's not a word. Stitched gigantic. So I'm stitching on a 32 count as opposed to like the called for 40 count. I think it might be 36. It doesn't matter. I don't really care about the called for anyway, ever. So, and it just looks so good, and it's very easy to stitch because it is just the like 32 count is very easy for me to stitch now. And I really enjoy that, like I think for a lot of these samplers from around this time, that they were doing more like picture stitching. I think that the styles of the pictures tend to be very similar to each other, right? So they're much more churches, and I mean there's a dog on this, but they're much more like realistic. And I like that this one has motifs that are like incredibly realistic, and then it has other ones that are much more symbolic. And so something like these strawberry, I mean I've said this in like multiple floss tubes, but like these strawberries here, and then like I think there's something really fun about this border, and how like this is obviously a flower of some kind, this one here, but it does not look like a flower in the way that like this looks like a flower, or these look like flowers, or like this looks like a wreath, right? And so there's something really cool about this sampler having both. But this is emblematic of the way I'm thinking about the world this year, and just kind of big pictures and lots of them, and they're just kind of slammed together, and like they don't really have anything to do with each other other than the fact that like the person who stitched them put them there, and then I'm putting them there. But like, how does that read, and like what do you get from it? I don't know. Something to think about. But I love this. I cannot recommend this pattern enough to people. The motifs are like small enough that you can get a really big win in a couple days, but it's big enough that, I don't know. I don't mind finishing really small stuff. I like a small, actually I don't stitch a lot of smalls. I like a small, but I don't know. But I like the idea of potentially having like a huge win, right? And then like a series of wins that led up to it. And I love that Franzi lets me have that. I'm gonna show an animal cracker. I really like the animal crackers. I mean, the problem is, yeah, I just say the same thing in every Flosstube video. I just say like, I like animal crackers. They're really cute. I like the clown, he's easy to stitch. I like Franzi, she's, you know, whatever. But I am stitching Harrison. I actually think that like the way that I felt about Fruits of Plenty like a couple years ago is the way that I feel about maybe that animal cracker Maggie May, the one that's like the rabbit and the cardigan, and that they're just like so iconic. And I feel like they speak to like a particular moment in cross stitch. I think the frog might do it too. I think the frog's too new for me to say. But I'm stitching Harrison. I have both the, what's her name? Lily? I have both Lily and Maggie May. I haven't stitched them yet, but I am stitching Harrison, which is a Stacy Nash animal crackers. I have made kind of a lot of changes to my animal crackers, and I'm making even more changes to them as time goes on because I think they're too, I don't mind like the primitive style. Do I mind it? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. I just don't want it in my home. I guess I mind it. I don't know. I guess maybe I think it gestures towards stuff. Yeah, so I find that some of the animal crackers skew a little bit too like primitive, skew a little bit too like down home on whatever. And like, I guess as someone who like literally grew up on a farm in like the Appalachian Mountains in a hollow named after with my grandma's maiden name, those kinds of things mean a lot different. So like, yeah, you guys know what I'm saying. Is that like, I have very specific experiences in my life, particularly about the way that people see like working rural Americans, that I am, obviously I'm not too hesitant because I'm doing cross stitch, but I am hesitant to sort of enact some of those stereotypes for like aesthetic purposes. It was like do you remember when everybody had that metal star? I think they were metal. It was like maybe like aluminum or like tin that they would like put on the side of their house, and it was sort of like country home. I'm telling you that like, whatever. Basically sometimes the animal crackers feel a little bit like that. In that it is like people attempting to align themselves with a group of people who they have spent their whole lives talking pretty bad about. And so I made some changes to the animal crackers to make them less primitive. Here's what my Harrison looks like. He's like a bit more mod than the original. I'm not stitching the pocket carrot thing. The like bag with the carrot. And so I still wanted carrot vibes, right? He's a rabbit. He should have carrot vibes. And so I'm stitching him with his sweater with 4 colors instead of 2. And I'm doing this on 46 count flax, back on my flax kick, always stitching on flax, with 100 threes. So the Soie 100 threes by Over Swan. And I love the 100 threes. I think in some ways, like, if the world collapses, I should buy more 46 count. It is Stitch Apocalypse. I just think like, with the way the supply chain seems to be going, and with the way the economy seems to be going, and with the way the dollar value seems to be dropping, I could see a world in the not so distant future where actually it's really hard for me to get linen, or at least good linen, that's like even weave linen, and it might be hard for me to get flosses. I love the 46 count. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, what I'm trying to say is I like 46 count. I don't know why I'm doing all that. There doesn't have to be, I like 46 count, we can leave it at that. He's very cute. That's Harrison. He's an animal cracker. I don't know. He's a rabbit. He doesn't have a bag. He's wearing a mod sweater, 100 threes, blah, 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 flax, blah, blah, blah. This piece, and then I stitched on the Beast by Long Dog Samplers. I'm still trying to find the words to talk about this piece. I think that I actually will probably talk about it a little bit differently every time I pull it out, because for me, oh, one of my stitches fell out. I really do just find myself generally in life trying to find the language to describe stuff that I don't think I'm always capable of finding the language to talk about things the way I want to talk about them, and I find it very frustrating. And so I think on one hand I say the same stuff in all my Flosstube videos, right? And on the other hand, sometimes I'm saying really different things about some of my stuff. And I guess I'm acknowledging it now, and I'm telling you that like this is really just me trying to find the right language and the right narrative about the pieces that I'm working on. I'll just show it to you, which is something I say in every video too, is that I get sick of talking about it, and then I'm just like, I'll show it to you. So this is stitched on 36 count antique white linen by Zweigart. Everything Zweigart, always. I am Zweigart's #1 stan. No, I'm not. I'm sure there's somebody out there who is way more of a Zweigart stan than I am. Yeah, and I'm stitching it 2/2 on 36 count with like sort of my own DMC conversion. Although saying it's on 2/2 kind of ignores the fact that most of this project is actually backstitching. I'll like get close so that way you can see the letters and stuff. But as you can see, there is just so much backstitching. And then here. Oh. I did the flowers in the M and the N recently, and they look really good. And the flower in the G is probably the backstitching on that is really good. Yeah, and so when I stitched this, I stitched I think I hadn't stitched anything from here over on this band, and so I stitched this whole sort of section here, and then I stitched one letter every time I pull it out. I started this after reading Revolutionary Demonology by Grappa de Nun. I also had watched, I think I started this 2 days after watching Antichrist by Lars von Trier. I cannot in good conscience recommend Antichrist to anyone, ever. I think it is the most misogynistic movie I have ever seen in my whole life. It is the most horrifically violent thing I have ever seen. X-rated, obviously. And also at the same time, I love it. So, sorry. I would not say that I'm a Satanist, but I do dabble. I would not say I'm a Satanist, but I do dabble, and I do think there's something very exciting about it. At the time, I was thinking a lot about the printing press. I was thinking a lot about reading, and I had just read this book that was very shocking to me. But anyway, I was thinking about printing presses and the way that the interesting complication of the Bible kind of spreading through the world at a time when the church was decrying people being able to read and knowledge as anti-Christian, but also something like a sampler being a thing that is pro, like girls learning to read, but also that reading being satanic, potentially, according to the Catholic Church. Not now, but whatever. Anyway, I don't know. I'm still finding the language, and I've tried out a couple different things, and I've tried out this one, and this one's not quite working either. The piece looks good. The piece is working. It sort of rises off it rises off the fabric in a really interesting way. And I'm really happy with it. I'm mostly stitching it with DMC 3371, I think. And then other shades of DMC, but the dark color is not black. It's like the very dark brown. Anyway, that's the beast. I'm gonna stop talking about it now. Oh, and I worked on this most notably while watching the Terrence Malick film, The Tree of Life. I did more than that. Like, I stitched on it more than like 2.5 hours that film was, but there was something very funny about stitching on that while watching The Tree of Life. The next thing that I worked on was EMCM ANNO 1787 by Modern Folk Embroidery. This is like an incredibly tiny sampler. I really like samplers. I really love stitching on samplers. I really love motif-based works much more than like full-fledged picture stitching. I don't see a world in which I'm ever doing like a full coverage picture image stitch. That sounds like my worst nightmare, and I don't think I would have any fun doing it, and I won't do it. Maybe I'll do it. 6 months from now, I'm going to be one of those Flosstubers who only show like Heaven and Earth Designs AI generated toad projects. But not now. I'm doing this 1/2 on 36 count with 103s on, 36 count terracotta by Zweigart. It is cute. And I'm about 2/3 of the way done. This is not most of this. I mean, I guess it's most of the stitching. I'm doing my own conversion. I'm not really worried too much about what the colors of the pattern are. Like, it's not like a 1-to-1 thing where like where you pick like a blue and it kind of goes in for a different blue from a different material. It's more just like whatever feels right at the time. And I'm trying to get the colors so nothing is like too close to itself on a different motif. I will be underlining the CM. I stitched the CM in the bright blue because I think it stands out the most. And I will be underlining it as well because those are my initials. And I didn't feel like putting my initials on it. And then above the flower, like in between the EMCM and above the flower, I'm gonna put this year, 2025. So that way it's both like the year, whatever her name was, who knows. Stitched it with maybe her name on it, and also the year that I stitched it with my initials. I think this is really cute. I'm really happy with this. I usually just stitch like huge stuff, and that's like kind of I stitch big stuff, and I have actually really enjoyed stitching this like very tiny sampler and kind of starting it and like immediately being like, oh my god, I'm almost done. I think I worked on it 4 days total. But I had this idea. I'm going to show you a little sketch I did. Oh, this is how I'm tracking my stitching now. I was previously using like a calendar, sort of like a planner. And I still am, but now I'm using this notebook. It's from Travelers Company. I love Travelers Company. I had a planner from them a couple years ago that I used religiously, but they're kind of expensive, so I wasn't buying it. But anyway, it's this like leather journal that you get, and then you buy sort of inserts for it. And then I have one that's grid, and one that is calendar, which you can see my stitching on, which you can see I'm tracking my stitching on, and then one that's notes. But here are my notes for the piece, but what I want to show you is here. I had this idea of stitching like a series of smaller samplers and sort of having like almost like a pendant or like a flag, and just kind of hanging them from it and having it be like sort of, I don't know, above a door, like over the fireplace or something like that. Because I think it would be a really cute way of showing them, and maybe even doing like it's black and white, but this Modern Folk Embroidery hem stitch tutorial. They're not all going to be Modern Folk Embroidery, but a couple of them will be. I have a plan for maybe 3 or 4 of them that I'm going to do. And then doing kind of a hem stitch, like an open hem stitch around the border, and then kind of just connecting them to each other and then hanging them from something. And I just think it would be really like interesting. And I don't love that when you frame something, I don't have any frame piece. I actually like I only have like 2 finishes, 2 fully finished objects, period. Actually I have 3, but one I gave away. And they're both stockings. And so the thing is like, but so I don't have any framed finishes. But I don't love a framed finish because I feel like you lose some of the reason for stitching, which is it's fabric, right? It's a textile. It's string on fabric. And I think that when you frame stuff, and particularly when you put it behind glass, I think it looks really good, but I think you lose some of the reason for stitching, for like having a stitched product. But I think sometimes I see the like full coverage pieces that are essentially just like photographs or drawings, which have been converted into cross stitch patterns, which are then stitched. And I understand the appeal of stitching it, right? I understand the appeal of like doing the actual stitching. I actually don't understand the appeal of putting it up. Because my thought is always just like, you could print that out. Which I know is not, I don't know. I guess if anybody watching this does full coverage pieces, outside of being able to show people that you like did something cool, or like being able to look at something and be like, I made that, is there really any reason that you like framing it? Like, I'm intrigued. I wonder if I'm being overly close-minded right now. I don't know, something to think about. But if any of you have any thoughts about full coverage pieces, and particularly like, why aren't you just printing that out? Or like, why aren't you just painting that? I don't know. I have canvas. I can get an easel and I have oil paint somewhere. I don't know. Anyway. But essentially what I'm saying is I like the idea of doing almost only soft finishes. And so that way like the fabric looks like fabric. And the floss looks like floss. Because that's what it is. I guess there's purity in that to me. But there's EMCM in 1787 by Modern Folk Embroidery. That's all the stitching I have to show you today. I'm going to talk about one book that I'm reading right now. I'm doing it more for me than I am for you. Sorry. I just like feel like I need to say it out loud that I'm reading again. I'm in school, and basically through the semester I don't read anything for fun, and it sucks and I hate it. Yeah, and so it's been spring break. We're on like week 2 of summer time, and so I've started reading again. And so I'm saying this because I think it's like good. It'll be good for pushing me to continue reading. This is something that I'm reading right now. This book looks crazy on camera. I mean, it looks crazy in person too. Anyway, right now I'm reading My Struggle Book 6. By Karl Ove Knausgaard. I feel comfortable talking about it because I know that I will love it, because quite frankly it's 6 books and I love the first 5, and I've loved the like 300 plus pages of this one that I've read. I'm about a quarter of the way done with this one, but particularly the first one, which I would actually say that they're all equally good, and I think the second one might be even better than the first one. So I guess I don't think they're equally good. I think the second one's the best one. But the first one was so different from a lot of other stuff that I had read that it was like very exciting to me. But this is another one that like has rocked my world, this series. I cannot recommend it enough, but obviously you're in for kind of a big... This is the longest one by far. And essentially it's his entire life. Everything. And they're really good, and I'm reading them, and basically I'm saying this because like if I like don't read it, I'm gonna feel really embarrassed because I'm presenting myself as like an intellectual reader. Like I can't even read a fucking book. Anyway, I don't know what's going on. Okay, I'm actually gonna go. Thank you for watching. Love ya. I feel like it would be easier to be a Flosstube if I had like specific catchphrases that I said at the beginning of every video and at the end of every video. And it's like I repeat myself through a whole fucking video, but I like can't come up with anything to say at the end. And it's like I should just have like a see ya.